solver. There are TVM solvers online, but our calculator also has an app called TVM. It stands for time, value, money. Okay? So very important. The good news is that it essentially replaces the need to use the compound interest formula. Technically, you can just use this solver instead of using the compound interest formula, but must use if there are payments or deposits. So the formulas that I gave you, the compound interest formula, does not account for you making additional contributions along the way. Okay? But if there are any mentions of payments being made, you must use it no matter what. I will say use a TVM solver anytime there's compounding. Okay? So it's found by pressing apps, then finance. You'll see this. And so for now, we're going to want to go to TVM solver. So why don't we just find that right away? So we're going to go find the apps. Have we found the apps button? So right here, if you can see it, it's under the X button, right? So press apps. Then you should see finance, hit enter, and TVM solver, hit enter as well. Okay, so these are the entries that you're going to need to fill in. You have to show us on paper what you're putting in here. You can't just do your thing here, come up with a final answer. Okay. Can you also all make sure that the province used to not care if this was set to end or begin? We all have to have it set to end. Okay, so make sure if you press apps, I'm going to walk you through it again. Apps, finance, TVM solver, you want end to be highlighted, not begin. Technically, they should all be on end. I've never taught it with begin. It just tells you, is the payment happening on the end of the month or beginning of the month? It turns out that it's like a few cents of a difference. It's not a big difference. But we always set it to end. The province told us make sure everybody has set it to end. Okay? So now I'm going to tell you what these numbers, what are these things, these variables you're filling in. So come with me here to the page. And I just have some random values in there. Don't worry about it too much. N is the total number of compounding periods. Okay? Very important. Or deposits / payments. And this is the one I want you to highlight. This is the one you have to have knowledge of. That whatever goes in N is the time in years times whatever PY is. What in the world is PY? Look at it. It's right here. If you look at my pencil right now, whatever that number is, you got to take the time in years, multiply it by PY. Okay? And you're like, how do you determine PY? Just hang in there. It's all going to make sense in a bit. Okay? I is the interest rate as a percent. I think that's not a surprise. I is interest rate as a percent. PV is the present value. It is the investment or the loan. If it doesn't talk about an initial deposit, this is worth highlighting. If the question doesn't say that you're starting with a certain amount, you just make it worth 0. Okay? Sorry, it's a little crooked. Sorry, guys. Cameraman is not doing very well today. PV is 0. Okay? PMT stands for payment. The value of regular deposits or payments that are being made. If there are no payments, no problem, just set it to 0. FV is future value. Like how much do you have at the end of the investment or the loan? If it's a loan, we're talking about your future value has to be set to 0. Because guess what? If we owe money, we don't want to owe any money down the road. Okay, so that's going to make sense to you later on. PY is the number of payments per year. If there are no deposits, or payments, we set PY equal to CY. What in the world is CY? CY stands for compounding periods a year. Okay, this is what we used to call N when we use the compound interest formula. So it's different. You have to kind of adjust to this. Okay, always set it to end. Okay, set it to end, and then to solve, you move your blinker on the unknown, and then you hit alpha enter to solve for any of the remaining items. Right now, honestly, if you're like, huh, what? It's okay. After examples, this might make more sense to you when you come back to review, okay? Another important thing is that the signs indicate the direction of the cash flow, okay? PV, PMT, and FV, so future value, so present value, payment, and future value, need a positive or a negative sign. Okay? The sign is centered around you, around the you. Okay? The sign is centered around you, like what's happening to the money with respect to you. Watch this. If this is you, and you give the money your bank, you put monthly deposits in there, it will be negative. Okay? However, if you're getting money, if you're taking money out of the bank, guess which way it's going? It's going towards you, right? Then you have a positive sign. So if the question talks about deposits, you're purchasing, investing, making payments, all of that goes towards the bank, you would have a negative in front of those numbers. If it says you're making a withdrawal or you receive a loan, when you receive a loan, you're getting a bunch of money, that gets a positive sign. Also, this will just be practice. Trust me, you'll be pros in no time. All right, let's go to 35. Brace yourselves a little bit. I wanted to get this started this week so that you can have some time over the weekend as well. At first I'm gonna talk about investments, and then we're gonna do loans a little bit later. There are slight changes when you're dealing with loans. That's why I do them separately. Using other finance functions such as apps, finance, then there's balance or interest. These are the two that we're going to use for investing quite often. What does this one tell us? Balance always needs, you need to type in the years times PY, whatever PY is, into it, and what will it give you? The value of the investment after a certain time. Like, hey, it's almost like you're checking your balance. Like, hey, how much will I have in 5 years? Boom, it's going to give you an answer. How much will I have in 10 years? Boom, it's going to give you an answer. Okay, so balance, like how much will someone have, use this function. I'm going to say don't use this one for now. Okay, I'll say omit. We can get around without using it. If I feel like I need to bring that one back, I will, but for now, I will just let it go. I've been omitting it lately. So balance and this one here. highlight this one. Interest, this is the sum of interest. It's going to calculate how much interest you've earned from a start date to an end date, okay? And essentially what we need to do to figure out the end, we have to follow this format right here. We go from the very first month or week to the very last one, which is governed by the number of years times PY. Okay? Very useful when calculating the interest earned in between. Some additional formulas. So rowdy. To calculate the total interest earned over the life of the investment, use this one. And remember, all of these are based off of my TVM solver entries. Okay? And I tell you what I'm doing here. To calculate the total principal invested, use this formula right here. And I always want you to accompany it with the appropriate title. Don't just have a formula on your study sheet and not know what it does. And here I'm going to use a bunch of colors. Formulas must be used if n is not a whole number. One color right there. Another one right there. It's because students forget this one a lot. These formulas that I just gave you must be used if n is not a whole number. This will be the case when n is solved for. Again, a lot of this right now makes no sense to you, but when you're reviewing, you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that. I know what you're talking about. Okay. All right. Let's put this to practice. Can we just, before I go on, let's find these two functions. It's again apps and then finance, right? So if you're in here, just go second mode to quit back to the home screen, and you press apps, finance, and number 9 is balance. That one is balance right there. And sum of interest, you got to go even further down. It's right there, sum of interest. This is going to add up all the interest you've earned over the years. Balance is going to give you how much you will have at any given point in the future. Okay, so these are the only two that we're going to use for our for this investment section. Okay, I will come back to this page, I'm sure. So let's just dive in for now. 36. Let's see if you can wrap your head around the basics at least. The way I teach it is I start filling it in from the bottom up. And I think that will make more sense to you later on. Okay, so for now, just trust me. Okay, trust you? I don't trust you. Anyways, try. CY is compounding periods a year. In this case, this is my CY. We're talking TVM solver. Okay, we're talking TVM solver. So this is my CY. Quarterly means 4 times a year. Compounding periods a year is 4. So let's put in the 4 here. You have to write this out yourself on exam test. This has to be written out by you. But you don't have to memorize it. You would just go apps, finance, TVM solver. It's exactly in that same order. I just do this to make it a little faster when I go through the lesson. Okay? PY is, that one you have to be careful. Are there any payments being made here? Let's read this. You invest $3,000, 5-year GIC, interest rate 4.17, compounded quarterly. Is there any indication of regular payments being made after that big amount? No. So we're going to make this equal to whatever CY is. So I will say PY is equal to CY because there are no payments. What happened there? Sorry. There are no deposits. Regular deposits. And this is going to change over time, of course, right? But that's why I say start from the bottom up. Because then you can be like, CY will always be given to you. PY, it's the same. Future value. Let's see here. Calculate the value of your investment at maturity. It's asking us for this. It's saying, what is it in the future? So question mark. Don't put a question mark. Instead, let's put a dot right outside, like on the left side. That's what we're going to solve for. This question has kind of given it away. That's what we're solving for. Payment. What is the payment amount? And because there are none, we make this 0. No payments or deposits. So PMT is equal to 0. Okay, that's the reasoning behind it. Present value. Present value is like your principal. Okay, $3,000. When you give it to the bank, it's leaving you, correct? So it would have to be negative 3,000. Leaving you. It's a sad moment. It's a negative moment, right? It's gone, bye-bye money. You're going to get it back, hopefully, but leaving you. Therefore, negative. Interest rate is there, so just put it as is. Don't turn it into a decimal, 4.17. N, I will actually write it down. It's the years times whatever PY is. And we're talking about a 5-year GIC, so it's 5 times what is PY? 4, right? So there's 20. What this is telling you, what this number is telling us, it's that the exponent of the compound interest formula. Interest will be calculated 20 times over the 5-year investment. Okay? So let's grab our calculators and have fun with this. You go apps, finance, TVM solver. You go fill it in, 20, 4.17, enter. Negative 3,000, don't go minus, okay, negative. 0. Future value, I put 0 in for now, but I'm going to solve for it in a bit. You can't leave it blank, it won't let you, okay. 4, and look what happens when you change PY and you hit enter, it will immediately change CY as well to 4. So you have to be careful, they're not always the same. They're not always the same. So it kind of, you got to make sure that if it does that to you, you go back and change CY to what it's supposed to be. Okay? So let's go ahead and solve for future value. We should have more than what we started with. So we go alpha, press alpha, the green button, and hit enter. And there you go. 3,691.50. Exactly. This is very exact. Bankers would use this. Okay? So you write down, you have to have your dollar sign because that's your final answer. 3691. This is so crowded. I thought I had done a better job. This is way too crowded. Please don't put them so close together when you do this yourselves. And that, honestly, that is it. If you tell us your final answer, you circle it and you put a dollar sign, you're good. You've answered the question. Okay? Calculate how much interest did you earn. Can you use two methods? Yes, I can. Okay, so you say yes, since n is not a decimal. So the first one, let's just use our old school formula. I'm going to get it here. TI, I'm copying it from the previous one, is future value minus present value minus n times PMT. What's my future value? It's 3691.50. And I need to say something here. The signs we used here are only for the TVM solver, okay? Don't use them anywhere else. So I will just go minus 3,000, okay? Don't go, oh, negative and negative, that's positive. Like, don't do that, okay? The sign here is just for the TVM solver. So it's just minus whatever the present value was, minus, what's n? It's 20, right? You'll realize that this is not necessary, this step right here. What's PMT? 0, right? So because there are no payments, this part right here could have been omitted. I'm just going to go like this. That ends up being 0, right? Like, so you could have just omitted that if you caught it in time. So it's basically just this minus that. And there you have it, $691.50. That's how much interest you've earned over the 5 years. Or we're going to use the sum of interest. You need a start and you need an end. That's what sum of interest needs. And because we're interested in the entire amount from the very beginning to the very last one, we go 1, 2. This has to do with your whatever n is. There's going to be 20 in total, 20 payments or compounding periods, I should say. So technically this is 20 here. So I'm going to put 20 in there, and I'm going to use a highlighter to let you know when you read this again, where in the world did you get your 20 from? I got it from here. However, because sometimes it won't ask you for the entire, it might ask you just for the first 2 years. You go years times PY. Okay? That's what you really do to get that. So what were our years? 5 times PY is 4. And that's how we got the 20. So let's try this, see what we get. Okay, this is how this works. You must quit this screen. Don't just press something else. You go second, quit, get out of it. And now we got to go back to the to apps. And we're going to go to all the way down to sum of interest. Hit enter. This should be on your home screen, right? Then we're going to go 1, 20. Hit enter. And lo and behold, These numbers may be slightly off. If you ever do this in other questions, don't worry about it. If you show us the work, we will honor either one. Just show us the work. They turned it into a gym. Anyways, next one. You would like to know how much interest will be earned 3 years into the investment. Determine this. You must use since the formula only works for the entire term. In other words, 5 years. You cannot use the formula because it's not asking for the entire 5 years. It's just like a weird question, right? Like, what about just the first 3 years? It's like, I can't do that with the formula. I have to use sum of interest. So you go like this. Sum of interest, we're going to start from the very first compounding period until, what do you think is going to go in here? The answer is 3 years times, what's PY? 4, right? So that's 12. So you're going to go from the very first compounding period to the 12th compounding periods. That's the equivalent of 3 years worth of investment. And then you get a number. Have fun. Yep. 1 to 12. So you basically just copy paste it. And I change the 20 to 12. And then I hit enter. And so in the first 3 years, you will have earned $397. It's not very amazing, the amount that you're earning, but it's just to show that this works. And last one, I'm not going to do F today. Otherwise, you might say, no, I'm not going to go. How much will be in the account after 4 years? What do you think it's asking for? Which function should I use? Out of the sum of interest and balance, I'm asking for the balance. Okay? So I'll make a note. Asking for balance after 4 years. It's asking for how much money do you have in total? How much money is going to be in my account after 4 years? So we must use balance and always enter years times PY. I'm going to kind of tell you more and more, and over time you're probably going to realize why I'm asking you to do this. Okay? So it's essentially balance 4 years times PY is still 4, correct? So that is essentially balance after 16 compounding periods have gone by. So you grab your calculator. You go apps. Make sure you're on your home screen. Apps, finance, balance. Okay, that's 9th option there. You can either go 4 times 4, you can actually type in 4 times 4, or you can just go 16. It's up to you what you want to do. And there you go. What's up with the negative, Mr. Dirksen? Do I need it? I'm going to put it down for now, but you don't need it. But tell me, why is it negative? If you're checking your balance in 4 years from now, why is it still negative? Because the money's still in the bank. It's away from you. It's in the bank. That's why it's negative. So don't be alarmed by it. It's supposed to be that way, right? So that's just 34, 35, 41, 49 is your answer. So that's how much money you have after 4 years altogether. I think you had enough for today. I'm going to ask you to try a question or two that doesn't involve crazy things like that. 1 second. Page 45. Sorry, I'm thinking because I don't want you to try the ones that have payments yet. So let's just go page 45. That's it. There's 2 questions, like loaded questions, sort of, that I want you to try. And I'm gonna go there to just give you a heads up on that a little bit, so you kind of know what to do. So you might wonder, like, what is it asking me to do exactly? So let's go to 45, okay? Yeah. 45, if you go there. Obviously, it's asking you to use the TVM solver to figure out how much the child will have or receive when they turn 21. Okay? So a newborn child, right? And in 21 years, you're figuring out how much money will there be for that child. Using the formula, what does it mean by the formula? It means compound interest. I want you to use the compound interest to verify what you found using the TVM solver. Okay? So remember that. I want you to use a TVM and then use your compound interest formula right next to it. I want you to use both for now. Okay? Give it a try. 45. That's it. That's all I'm going to assign.